All right, we've been doing this for, 6 or 7 years, and we've had some great keynote speakers, but probably this year we have outdone ourselves. I can't thank Kendall enough for helping us arrange that, and the commissioner mentioned that this was his last banquet, and it's mine too, and there's no better way for us to go out by having the quality of speaker and the quality of person that we've got here tonight. Our keynote speaker really does not need an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He's been and is the face of Tennessee football going all the way back to his playing days in 1969 through 1971. He served as co-captain as a senior, and the Vols were 30-5 and won an SEC championship and a Sugar Bowl during his playing career. He served 17 years at the helm of the Volunteers program, producing a record of 152 and 52 losses. At the conclusion of his final season, no active coach with at least a decade of Division 1A had a better winning percentage of 744. Under his tutelage, the Vols were the first to win the Bowl Championship Series National Championship in 1998. I was at that game in Phoenix, and I told the coach earlier, it was probably one of the great thrills of my life to see Tennessee in person win a national championship. His teams made 5 appearances in the SEC championship game, winning in 97 and 98, and he was the SEC and National Coach of the Year in 1998. And as Commissioner Perkey detailed so eloquently, he's now assumed the role of Director of Athletics on December 1st, 2017, after serving as a special advisor to the University President, Joe DiPietro, for community athletics and university relations. He earned a first ballot induction into the National Football Foundation College Football Hall of Fame and has faithfully served the University of Tennessee for more than 40 years. It's really an unbelievable honor for the Commissioner and I to welcome our keynote speaker tonight, the Athletics Director of the University of Tennessee, Coach Phillip Fulmer.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I hope you feel that way this time next year. I don't know, I appreciate the introduction. I think it's so great that you come together like this to honor each other and to share time and effort. And I'm speaking from somebody that you serve, like, that you take care of, and we thank you for what you do. It's really special, and it's my honor to be here. Now, I don't know what Kendall Poole told you guys about getting me here. He had nothing to do with it. Just so we're all clear on that. No, he's a great friend. I appreciate him very much, and I'm glad to be here, honestly. And Colonel Trott mentioned our Alabama friends in the audience. I could say this for the Georgia friends as well. We were 11-5 against you guys, so I don't have to worry about you guys here tonight too much. So there's several of you here look like you could play right now. We need some help. So if you're interested in room, books, board, tuition, and fees, see me afterwards, and we'll see if we can get you started. I think it's great. I saw Ray Robinson and Trish. Where's Ray and Trish? Where are you? I coached Ray, and Trish coached us both, to be honest with you, because they was coming up. And I love Ray Robinson. I love me some Ray Robinson, I can tell you that. If you know him and know his family, you know what good is. Because that's what he is. He and Trish both are good. They're just good people, been brought up right, wonderful family, and the toughest son of a gun I've ever coached, I think. And I mean that. You can tell from what he's just been through to be where he is right now. We were playing, who was it, Ray? Ole Miss, I think. And Ray had a lot of knee injuries and problems along the way, and and was our starting center. And I'll go back all the way. There's two things that happened in this whole process. One, Woodbury High School sends us a film, and the only thing you can see on the film of this great high school prospect and all the other people on the field is their legs. It's all, so whoever was filming it only filmed the level, the ground, and up to their, so the only reason we knew Ray was playing, who he was he was the center. And I said, well, I can't tell anything else, but he's got really good feet, you know. And so we go through the process and meet him, and he comes up, and we're thinking about offering him a scholarship, So I go to his hometown in Woodbury to see him. So I pull up in this, I think a big rental car is what it was. I could have been a undercover cop or something, because it's one of those big old Impalas, you know, that we used to have out there. And so I come up to this bridge, and I'm looking at this bridge, and I'm from Winchester now, so I know what country is, okay? Well, I am really in the country now. So I come up to this bridge, and it's like this, wooden bridge, and it's like this, and I'm just not sure, you know, that I can take this big car over it, and I may be on the wrong road. So I get out and walk up to the bridge and start jumping on it a little bit to see if it's going to fall with me. And I couldn't see the folks, but Ray and him were sitting up on the porch watching all of this. Hey, Coach, school bus comes over every day. It's okay, you know. So after we got through that and got him there, and Trish shows up, he had a wonderful career, and so proud of him, all that he's done. Colonel Trott mentioned, you know, folks that sometimes mentor folks, and I think it's so important to. I see some older folks here tonight. You know, you guys get gray hair and you shave it, and you can't tell how really old you are anymore. I think I'm gonna have to take that on as well. But there's some older and some younger here, and mentoring is so important, and passing down the things that we learn in life and in our chosen field, and certainly in sports, it's important. One of my mentoring experience was with a young punter named Dustin Colquitt. And if you followed Tennessee at all, you know about the Colquitt family. You know, there's Craig that played there and made all conference, went to the Steelers, played a couple years, or played several years in 2 Super Bowls with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then there was Jimmy, was an all-SEC punter, had a little stint in pro football, and then fast forward, Craig's children start coming up, Dustin and Britton. Most of this gray hair that I have, or what lack of hair I have, came from Britton Colquitt, just to tell you the truth. He was a handful, but we've got him in a good place now. But Dustin was the older of the two, and was a real blessing to coach. But it started off on a little bit of a rough ground, because how hard was it to recruit Dustin Colquitt? He lived in Knoxville. His dad had played at Tennessee. Mom went to Tennessee. Had a great career. His mom and dad had a wonderful time at Tennessee. So the kid was coming to Tennessee. So didn't spend a lot of time recruiting him, on the phone a couple of ball games along the way. And our home visit was done in my office, you know, because it was just easier for everybody. And so Dustin shows up as a freshman. He's 6'4", 215 pounds as a freshman. Big, strapping, good-looking guy, and he's a heck of an athlete. So first day of two-a-days come up, and he's over on the kicking field with the snappers and the holders, and I'm over here on this field, the big field, with all the real players, you know, the offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, quarterbacks, and I'm watching what's going on. But I can't help but keep looking over there on the side and seeing Britton punting this football. And I'd seen him a little bit on tape, but not much. I heard he was a great punter. But he's kicking 60 yards high and 60 yards long, just kick after kick after kick. And I watched that the first day, and I watched it the second day, and I watched it the third day. And I'm thinking, man, we found us a punter. He's going to be really good. And we needed a punter. Our punter had graduated, and so I go in the fourth day in the morning meetings with the staff. I said, guys, I've been watching this kid for 3 days. When it comes, we had a scrimmage that day. When it comes to the kicking period, we're going to not put anybody up there. Usually you put your protection teams and the rush teams, and I don't want anybody up there but the snapper and the punter, and I want the whole team behind me with their coaches. by your positions and let's watch Dustin kick, and everybody will gain great confidence from him kicking the ball. And so it comes to that period, we line them all up there, snapper makes a perfect snap to Dustin, and as you would expect, maybe the first punt from a freshman goes dead right off his foot. I mean, it's the worst punt in history. Bang. It goes off the side of his foot. Second punt, so he looks at me, he said, Coach, I'm okay, I got it. And so I'm kind of looking at him funny. I hadn't seen you kick one of those in 3 days. So his second one, he overcorrected, and hooked it, and it goes over, and it's the second worst punt in history, and goes over and hits the fence. I'm starting to get worried. Now I can hear the kids behind me just kind of mumbling, what's going on? Coach has lost his mind, and the coaches are thinking I've lost my mind. Third kick, he catches the ball, and he puts it on his foot a little bit on the high side, what we call a fat, like you hit a golf ball fat, something hit it fat on his foot. And it goes about 30 yards high and 30 yards long and hits on its nose and literally rolled back to the snapper. And now these kids are laughing. They think Coach is just going. I said, Dustin, come here a minute. So I take Dustin, walk him over away from everybody. Dustin, I've been watching you for 3 days, and you kick after kick just wonderfully. And he said, Coach, I get really nervous. I said, what's the matter with you? He said, I get really nervous when you're watching me. I said, Dustin, I'm going to be at all the games now, man. We got to get past this. So I had lost a mentoring opportunity. How hard would it have been for me at some point in those first 3 days to walk my dumb rear end over there and hug this young kid's neck and pat him on the rear and encourage him a little bit to go and do well, and made him comfortable with me. The rest of it ended up great. He ended up having a really good freshman year and so on. But I think that's so important that we share what we've learned, that as experienced people we hand down. I tell my children all the time, you don't have to make the mistakes that I made if you'll learn to listen. So it kind of goes both ways. I started to ask ask for hands, but the colonel being here, I don't think I will, of how many of you have stopped me at some time or another in the last 30 years or 40 years, because I'm sure there's several of you, but you've been very nice. So it wasn't about Kendall, it was about me coming here to basically repay my debt, we usually just end up talking a little football. After I left coaching, and I love Tennessee, I mean, obviously I do, and the university or any institution in reality is bricks and mortar, right? It's the people inside that matter. And when I left UT, I was hot. I wasn't a happy camper, and I felt like that with all that we had done, we maybe had a chance to bounce back again, and we would have, and probably. It ended up working out. I guess I'll leave it at that right now. But I thought I was go take a job somewhere and hope I guess we get a chance to play against Tennessee. But I had to sit back and think about it a bit as in the bigger picture of things. Was I going to be happy at a place besides Tennessee? I had these beautiful children and now grandchildren at 58 years old. Was I going to be happy being somewhere else and them here? And then I said, I've missed so much with my children because it's a full-time job. And am I going to do the same thing with my grandchildren? So I decided to enjoy my children and grandchildren for a while. And I've loved it. I mean, I love coaching. I think we've made a difference in a lot of young men's lives. At 18, like I did, like Ray did, everybody does. You did probably. You think you know everything, and about a couple years after you're into it, you think, what, I might need to listen a little bit better and learn something. And hopefully they come out and, they're better citizens and husbands and fathers because they were with you. And I think we did that. But I made a big decision to leave coaching. I did a couple things, that were interesting. I told the group at the table, my real job was I was the assistant to the assistant that was the assistant Pee Wee baseball coach. That was my real job. And after I left coaching, and I loved that. I did CBS for a couple of years, if you had a chance to watch that. That was fun to do. You had 18 monitors in front of you, and they give you 10 seconds, to talk on television about it. And so it wasn't real hard. I really did CBS more than anything to just get out of town while Kiffin was there. So that worked out fine. I did a little bit in a movie. Many of you have seen The Blind Side. It was great movie, great story. Young man I had the kid, just so everybody, he was coming to Tennessee. I just never thought about adopting him. That was a brand new one on me, and I live and learn, I guess, in the recruiting world. But I had the kid. My wife doesn't particularly like for me to say this, but I hate they cut out the love scene in that movie, but it was fun. But that's a joke too. I did a little bit in the president's office, and I did enjoy that for a period of time. And now I'm back in a place. It's like we've been wandering through the desert, to be honest with you, for 7 or 8 or 9 years of whatever, of some of the decisions that we've made. And now I hope, as we talked about, we've stabilized and we're trying to move forward. And I think you're really going to like Jeremy Pruitt if you follow Tennessee. And I know you had some time coming up in your life. Maybe it was that PE teacher, maybe older, it was a coach somewhere that you loved, you respected, but you feared him because he'd put that paddle on your rear end if you didn't behave, didn't do like you're supposed to. That's Jeremy Pruitt. That's exactly what he's like. He's a no-nonsense guy. He loves to recruit. He loves football. He loves kids. But he expects them to be the right kind of person, and give the right kind of effort. So I've watched some of our off-season program, and you're going to be really excited. Now, it's going to take us a while. That's why I mentioned some of you big, burly guys. We might need you for a couple of years, but we're going to get to where we're going to get it right. We're going to get the University of Tennessee football back right and where it's supposed to be. Along the way, as a coach, or in your world as well, you're going to get humbled from time to time. I like to tell the story of in 1997, I'm going to preface this, we won the SEC championship that year, but we had just lost to Florida early in the season. And where I live in Maryville was, at the time, even more so than now, was kind of out in the country. And so I had this favorite little grocery that also pumped your gas or did your windshield when you went in to get your gas or whatever. And they were my guys. They loved Tennessee. They loved me. They were supportive and everything. So this one morning, I wasn't particularly in a great mood, as we got beat the day before and probably shouldn't have. And I get out, and this gentleman was walking out that I didn't know at all, and he obviously didn't know me either. He kind of spoke, and I went on in and got my coffee and newspaper, and I'm in a little bit of a hurry to get to my television show, and he's pumping the gas, and he sees my ring when I walk back out there. And he said, "Oh, you follow the Vols?" I said, "Yes, sir. I followed them pretty close, matter of fact." He says, "Well, what'd you think of the game yesterday?" Because I really wanted to have this conversation with this guy I didn't even know. And he was very respectable looking, elderly, probably doing it, just to have a little job to meet people or whatever. And I wasn't going to be particularly rude at that point. And I said, "Well, we didn't take care of the ball very well, didn't tackle, whatever I said to him." He says, "Well, I tell you what I think. Until they get rid of that Fulmer guy, they're never going to have a team over there." So I agreed with him and left. I wasn't going to have that conversation, with him. And fast forward, we win next week. We're back on track. I need gas again. I go in and pull up to the pump, and nobody comes out at that particular time. I go in, and one of the guys I knew comes out, and 3 or 4 of them in there having coffee. And I said, "Where's the guy that was here pumping gas last week? I'd like to see him." And he said, "Oh, Coach." He quit on the spot because when you came back in, he said, "Oh, we saw you talking to Coach." And he says, "That was Coach Fulmer." and he quit on the spot. So we all have to learn to make sure we know who we're talking to, right? along the way when things come up, and you're going to get humble from time to time. We were talking about my roots in Winchester just a minute ago here, and I'm so proud of my upbringing, and I had the greatest mom and dad you could ever imagine. My dad worked 2 jobs all of his life. I died much younger than he probably should have because I think he just worked himself to death. Stay-at-home mom, great Christian family, but we had this little cocoon, that was around us. And we were talking about 2 men in my hometown, and there was several. And I think this is where we talk about serving, like you guys do. There was people in the town that made a point to serve the youth, and that gave me a chance and gave several of us a chance to expose us to other things outside of our little cocoon. They brought the Fellowship of Christian Athletes to Franklin County, one of the first programs in the state of Tennessee after starting out in Kansas, and they took us up to Vanderbilt to watch football games, down to Alabama to watch football games, and up to Tennessee, Tennessee State, Sewanee, Tennessee Tech, Austin Peay. We were always going somewhere, and these men made a difference in our lives, and that's fortunately what you guys do on a day-to-day basis. I think coaches can make a huge difference, and people in the community can make a huge difference. So if you get a chance, I joke about being the assistant to the assistant. It's one of the best things I've done, because each year, in those years that I coached, there was 1 or 2 young people, one was a little girl and several little boys along the way that just needed somebody to throw them a grounder and make them feel good about how they learned to catch it or whatever it was. And that started the relationship that went to the dugout, that went to other things, that hopefully I can make the same kind of difference in their lives. My experience, and this would go to you guys because you're professionals, my experience is the great ones, the Ray Robinsons, the Peyton Mannings, the Jason Wittens, Eric Berries, Gerard Mayos, and I could go on. The great ones expect to be coached hard. They expect to be the leader. They don't want you to coddle them. And if we did anything good in my time at Tennessee, and I've expressed this to Jeremy, he's got his own way of doing things, but it's absolutely true. When you expect the most from your best, and the best gives it back to you, then you have a culture. Because that young one that just came to campus, he's all ESPN head, thinks he's God's gift to football, and he's standing there watching you coach Peyton Manning on how to take a snap and get away from center in his 3rd year, or how to move his feet in the pocket to get it out, or Jason Witten how to catch a ball in his 3rd year, then all of a sudden he can conclude pretty quick, hey, I want to be great too, so therefore I want to be coached hard in a professional way, but hard. Okay, so I can be great too, and all of a sudden now you've got a culture that's doing it. And we did that very, very well while we were at Tennessee, and I think it carries over to our business. If you've gotten to a certain place in your organization and you're in a leadership position, then you should do the things that are the fundamental things the best to make sure those young people that are following you follow you in line. We talked about the national championship game. I love that team. That is one of my favorite teams. Certainly a magical season. I can't sit here and tell you that that's my favorite football team. We had 4 teams, probably 4, that that were better than that team, and if we had the playoff system then that they have now, any 4, or including that team, could have been in the now playoff. Interestingly enough, probably so would have Florida, as the way it turned out. It was unusual to have 2 teams in the same division that good for so long. But none of those were my favorite team either. When I look back at my favorite football team, it was the 1994 team. We had lost Heath Shuler. Heath Shuler was my quarterback in 93. And that 93 team still has offensive records. that probably won't be broke, because in 93, we had an offensive team. We didn't try to make first downs. We were trying to score on every play. I mean, we had so much talent on offense, plus we were so bad on defense, that we had to almost score on every play, it seemed like. So 93, Heath decides to leave. He's got 19 million reasons to go to pro football. I got that. And we had this young man named Jerry Colquitt that was our backup quarterback. And honest to goodness, it was really close to whether it was going to be Jerry or Heath. And Heath won the job, and that was the right thing to do, and wonderful for him with all those records and being, the second player picked in the draft, period. But nobody knew about Jerry Colquitt. He was good. And we were picked third in the East, not expected to do great. Not only did we lose Heath, we lost some other good players, real good players. So we were picked third in the East, and that team, I've never seen anybody bond around a quarterback like that team did. It was amazing. Had a great summer, great off-season, great two-a-days. And we're opening the college football season on national television in the Rose Bowl against UCLA. And you don't think this young head coach was excited about taking that team out there? It was unbelievable how exciting it was to be able to do that. And we received the toss, or received the ball, and win the toss, receive the ball, and we return it out to about the 25-yard line, make a first down in 3 plays. And the 7th play of the UCLA game, Jerry Colquitt tears his knee up. Not out for the game, not out for the season. He can never play football again. We're on the sideline crying, having a really tough time with it. Todd Hilton is our backup quarterback. And I had promised Todd, because Todd was a baseball player. He ended up being going to be a Hall of Famer from the Colorado Rockies. And he kind of figured out that his place in life was going to be in baseball, and I'd figured that out. But I had a senior and Jerry Colquitt, and I had these freshmen, Peyton Manning and Brandon Stewart, and I said, Heath, if you'll just stay out for about 6 weeks and help me get one of these freshmen ready, I promise you won't get hit. Well, hell, I never thought about having to put him in a ball game, So Jerry's hurt and out. Todd goes in the game, does wonderfully. Brings us back. We ended up losing 26-24, but he brought us back, and we were respectable. We go to Georgia the next week. Ran the ball 73 times through 13 passes, actually completed one of them, which was really exciting. And handily beat Georgia, but we had some other injuries. Went to Florida and lost, and then we went to Mississippi State, who were obviously better than, and darn if Todd doesn't get his knee nicked. And he's out for the rest of the ball game, and I thought I'd ruined his career, but it turned out it wasn't very bad. So we're sitting there. We put the freshman in, and you can imagine what happens. We have 5 turnovers, lose to a team that we're better than. And we're 1-3. You do not want to be the head coach at the University of Tennessee and be 1-3. I'm telling you, it's miserable. So we get back to Knoxville, and this would be one of my points of telling this story. The first thing that we did, as I thought about it all the way back home, is we sat down and said, how can we help this football team as a staff, offensively, defensively, and kicking? You write down 3 things on each side of the ball that we can do better to help this football team. And we worked at it. We spent a couple of hours on it, okay? Then I went over to see Coach Dickey, who had been my coach in college, is also now my athletic director, had given me a chance to be the head coach. And I said, Coach, we're 1-3. We've got all these injuries. Lost both of our quarterbacks. We got Washington State coming up. They were really good at that time. Coach, I don't know if we don't beat Washington State, I don't know if we'll win another game. If we don't win another game, are you still going to love me? And he looked at me and said, Phillip, we're going to love you, but we're sure going to miss you. So it's crossroads a little bit. So we go back, and I sit down with a team. And this is the best thing that we did, the first thing out of my mouth was, we have sat down as a staff, and these are 3 or 4 things that we can do better to help you. In other words, guys, it's not all your fault. They were sitting there in a defensive mode, tight, looking just ready to get ripped, you know, and and everything changed. Everything changed. Their body language changed. The mood of the room changed. And then I said, who are you going to listen to? You're going to listen to the media who thinks we can't coach and you can't play? Or are you going to listen to your mom and dad or girlfriend who thinks it's everybody's fault but yours? Or are you going to listen to us? And we've got 8 games left, and we go win as many of those 8 games because, by gosh, we're Tennessee. And we're going to go to work. And that's my favorite football team. We won 7 of the next 8 football games that we played. But more importantly than that, out of those ashes that we were in, we were 45-5 for the next several years. Out of the ashes, we were 45-5. So the tough times that we have in our life are opportunities if you got the right kind of foundation around you, and we need to understand that every day. Last little story, and it meant a lot to me. I told you I was in a flux as to what I was going to do. Do we have veterans here? I just raise your hands if you're a veteran. Let's thank these guys for their service. R.C. Slocum at Texas A&M and I are good friends. We got to be friends mostly on a USO trip to the Middle East. And these were all war zones. We were in like 6 countries, 6 bases in 5 days. We were all over the place. And I mean, these are walls and barriers and trenches and towers and barbed wire and no straight roads. They were serious business. And I really enjoyed getting to know the leadership of each base. Their focus was, these are our tools, these are our timeline, and this is our objective. And that's kind of how they presented themselves. And then there was the guardsmen that were much more, they're still professional, but much more normal, you know. And then you had those young people that were 18 to 22, with age basically that I would have been coaching them, you know, male and female, that served our country so well. So, I mean, I became a bigger fan of our military. But during all that time, R.C. and I are spending all this time together. We come to one particular checkpoint on this base, and this is a God thing. We could have come in on 5 different roads to get to this particular checkpoint. We stop, guy in the tower got a gun on us, 4 Marines walk out with a dog to check the car and ask us to get out. We give them our passport. And this big, tall Marine standing there, 6'4", about 215 pounds. And, you know, I'm thinking, my God, what a good tight end this kid would have made, you know. Good-looking kid. And just to break the ice, I said, son, where are you from? He said, Coach, I'm from Winchester, Tennessee. He grew up 2 miles from my mother and in our home. And so I took his name and everything and went back and called his mom when I got home. But, you know, that's how small our world is anymore. 6,000 miles away, I run into somebody that's 2 miles away. So R.C. and I are sharing all this time. So now I'm thinking about getting out of coaching or not. You know, am I going to coach? Am I going to spend time with my grandchildren? You know, going through all this difficulty. So R.C. pulls me into we're at a clinic convention. He pulls me into a room and says, I've been looking for you. I want to talk to you about something. And he says, you know, he asked the waitress for a change for a $1 bill. She brought him a roll of pennies. He spreads the pennies out. He said, how old are you? And I said, I'm 58. So he took 58 pennies off the table. So I figured out pretty quick, you know, what he's doing. And he says, let's say you live till you're 85. And so he took 15 more pennies off the table. I'm starting, that's not very many pennies left, you know. And he said, those last 5 years aren't going to be great anyway. So he takes 5 more off, you know, and pushes them over here on the side. And he says, that's what you got left. He says, what I would encourage you to do, and this is going to be my closing, is to count your pennies. But along the way, make sure your pennies are counting. Thank you much. Appreciate it.
we've had great honors over the years with great speakers, but as I said before, I think we're all in the presence of a Tennessee legend. All of us who follow the University of Tennessee and Tennessee football are so proud to have been here tonight and hear Coach Fulmer speak. And we want to honor him, Commissioner Perkey, and Commissioner King, and Commissioner Gibbons, Commissioner Mitchell, all up here tonight. There is one symbol of the Tennessee Highway Patrol that lives on no matter what, and that's the hat. And we want to honor Coach Fulmer and hope he'll display this proudly with the symbol of the Tennessee Highway Patrol, the trooper hat. And we present that to you tonight, and thank you for speaking to us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you.